A single motorcycle model has often turned the fortunes of a company. It was the Scrambler for Ducati, the Super Cub for Honda, the Street Twin for the Triumph, and for Royal Enfield, it's the Classic 350. A motorcycle so important that the entire marketing team of Royal Enfield had gone into overdrive mode ahead of its launch. You've seen the flurry of YouTube videos, the Rebirth campaign, and the ads on the newspaper. But our job is to simplify things here at Ride with Rahul. The formula is very simple. Take the looks from the old Classic 350, improve the fit and finish to make it look premium, and then plonk in all the hardware from the tried and tested Meteor 350, which was launched last year. And we call it the all-new Classic 350. The spring-loaded seat is no longer a necessity, but you can add it for aesthetic purposes, which is actually a part of its hundreds of accessories, kit options, and so many color options that we would require to make a separate video if we needed to cover it all. The green with the copper accents is the one we got, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Paint quality and fit and finish is really top-notch. The console gets a digital display for the very first time, which also has a fuel gauge. The RE logo badge on the console was supposed to be the tripometer, but due to chip shortage, they had to cover it up. The Royal Enfield Classic 350 looks like an authentic retro bike and not just a modern motorcycle posing to be one. It's still air-cooled and even retains the halogen headlamp and pilot lamps to fit with the retro charm. But enough about the looks, let's start it up and see how it performs. Riding the Royal Enfield Classic 350. I've had this bike for a couple of days now. I have ridden around 60-70 kilometers. Wanted to do more, but it was raining yesterday almost all day. Could only go out in the evening. It's got the same suspension, frame, engine, and brakes from the Meteor. So what's different? That's the point. Because comparing this bike with the old Classic 350, I don't think makes much sense, because this is an all-new motorcycle. Only they have tried to make the styling resemble as much as they could with the previous bike, because that had some retro styling and they did not want to compromise that with their fan base. Go out there and talk to a Royal Enfield enthusiast and you tell them what you want to know about this bike, and they're going to talk about the thump. Does it still have it? In the most classic sense of the way, the thump as you know it is gone, but it's replaced by a new thumping engine, which sounds, I would say, quite better, more refined, and now it sounds more powerful. It's deep, it has got bass to it, but I mean, I definitely like this sound a lot more, and maybe the fans will not agree, but I'm not a Royal Enfield typical fan. I did not like the previous generation of single cylinder motors, which used to vibrate a lot and give me kind of nerve pains in the arms, and you might call me a softie for that, but I've ridden motorcycles from all categories. I've ridden 1300cc cruisers from Indian Motorcycle, I've ridden the Ducati Multistrada 1250, I've ridden quite a few uncomfortable sport bikes, and I'm fine with most of it actually, but a vibrating motorcycle is just not for me, because it gives so much pressure on the palm, and that kind of on a long ride, you know, I'm really not looking forward to that experience. When I rode the Meteor 350 last November, I was really impressed of how Royal Enfield, how far had they had progressed. The vibrations are still there, but they're so much negligible that they're maybe slightly more than any other commuter bike, but this is a 350cc big single cylinder engine, so I am kind of happy to live with that. To be honest, the KTM 390 Adventure feels more vibey than this. Not the 390 Duke, that's refined, very nice motorcycle, but I'm talking about the 390 Adventure. It feels more vibey than this. If you compare it with the previous generation of Thunderbird or the Classic, I mean, this is miles and miles ahead. They have completely changed. It doesn't even feel that the same company made this motorcycle. I mean, the aesthetic is definitely there, but the engine and everything, I mean, this is coming out of their new Royal Enfield research center somewhere in UK. Those guys out there, they're making Royal Enfield acceptable to non-Royal Enfield riders. Yes, I would say there are two types of riders: people who like Royal Enfield and people who like all types of motorcycles. So the people who like all types of motorcycles did not like few things about Royal Enfield, like the lack of reliability, for example, the performance issues, the vibrations. And I wouldn't say everything's gone. Yeah, sure, the bike's refined and everything, but it's still not as reliable as you'd find on a typical Japanese motor, but these are now livable. Even the Meteor has been in production since last November, I believe, and a lot of people have received their bikes and they're doing quite well, actually. If you're on the internet, you've probably read some of the Royal Enfield users complaining about reliability issues. That is improving. As an unbiased reviewer, I can only recommend you a bike when I find that those things are improving, because but the motorcycle might seem nice to ride, enjoyable even, but if it doesn't have that much reliability, then you buy that motorcycle out of my recommendation, and later you would say that I did not mention such issues, even withholding information.
You get the point. At first, they were unreliable. Then they created service centers in each part of the country to give support to the broken down vehicles. Now they have vastly improved, but the nationwide service network is still there to support you. For the end user in 2021, it's a win-win scenario.
Now, opening up the power feels almost same as the Meteor. Just a tad slower, I would say. I don't exactly remember, but the Meteors seem to be, just a tiny bit more responsive. This bike, you twist out the throttle, the response is linear, but it's very mellow. It's even the Meteor is a gradually accelerating bike, and I've said that in that review, I believe. But this one, it feels just a little bit more mellowed out. On the other hand, you definitely feel a lot of torque when you're just cruising around in 60 to 80, that speed. You just hold your throttle and you cruise. It's definitely for those guys who like to enjoy their slow ride on the highway, take in all the sceneries. The moment you start pushing and you start thinking about performance, what's your in-gear acceleration, whether you can overtake the next car or not, then it starts feeling like this bike's not keeping up with you. I mean, it's overtaking is possible, make no mistake, but it's not a bike that wants to be pushed. It's a bike that wants you to just go with the flow, adhere to the city speed limits, the rules, the traffic rules, and just enjoy the ride. Now, when you're going for something like this, you definitely care about the looks a lot. So I would say for an authentic retro feel, this bike definitely does it. Now, in the corners, this, as you can see, I tracked through the line quite easily, and it's a little bit slow on the entry. And it definitely wants you to ease in, so it handles like a kind of like a refined large SUV. It does what you want it to do, but it won't really flick into it. The flickability is a little low. The front end is nicely weighted down, and I feel the seat height is higher than Meteor, so the handlebar feels even lower, so that weighs up the front geometry quite a bit. So it's better in the corner entries, but it just won't go there quickly. You just have to, like the rest of the things in this bike, it likes to be eased into everything, ease into acceleration, ease into braking, and ease into the corner entries. By the way, the braking has improved, so there is a decent amount of bite. Like, I'd go close to the speed breakers and you see, nice. So you can brake into it pretty well. And in the Meteor, I did complain that there was no initial bite, but a nice progressive feel after that. Here, I would say there is an initial bite followed by a nice progressive feel. So there, the initial bite's not like very hard and everything. It's not that Brembo technical bite, but it's there, which I liked. And then it's followed by that progressive feel. And as you can see, the corners are pretty much, you feel very sure-footed on this bike. There are no surprises, and I felt the Meteor's rear end was kind of stepping out in the corners. I also don't feel that on this bike, and there is a 10 millimeters reduction in the wheelbase. I'm not sure, but 10 millimeters is a big number when you're talking about wheelbase, and sometimes such subtle changes does that difference. In city filtering, the front end feels heavier, but on high speed handling, actually with the spoke wheels, the front is more weighty, and I kind of like that because I use more body positioning to lean the bikes than counter steering. So it just depends on your riding style, but I really like this. And another thing is the front suspension. When I went over that bump, I definitely felt it on the hands. The front suspension's been kind of firmed up. I don't know if it's firmer than the Meteor, but it feels like that. But the rear definitely is softer. There's 10 millimeters more travel, so even if you are feeling a little bit more impact on your handlebars going over some bad patches of road, you don't really feel that on the seat. So your pillion or even your lower half will be more comfortable because the rear is gobbling up the bumps even though the front is jumping over them. Gearbox in the Meteor, at least on the motorcycle I received, I felt it to be a little bit clunkier, but on this one it doesn't feel that much clunky. So take a look at the top speed. So we did about 120 right now, and for holding that, crossing 120, let's take you through the console. This is the start stop switch. It's very minimalist and retro looking, yet it is very functional. You can turn it off by that, you can put it into ignition with that, and when you turn it to the left, that cranks it and starts it. Very minimalistic, very functional and retro looking at the same time. Now on the left side it is the same thing, but here when you flick it right, it gives the pass light switch. As you can see, it's blinking over there. Its center is the low beam, and push it left for the high beam. So it's the similar switch but completely different usage. So nice set of buttons, and there is an I button over here hidden. That's the information button. When you press it, you can change this into Odo, Trip 1, Trip 2, stuff like that. So cornering on the Royal Enfield Classic, we were doing about 110 kilometers in the corner, and I find the handling to be better than the Meteor, which is surprising. Close to 80, let's say, and the fuel, we still have 2 bars left. For absolute city riding, I know this has a 15-liter fuel tanks, but I haven't done a mileage test, but it's giving good. I would say about 33, 35, which is the reports say. I haven't counted it, but I'm sure it's giving close to that because I don't see any awkward fuel drops. It's a very nice first motorcycle as well because the seat height, well, it's low. It's a little heavy. I know a lot of beginner riders want a lightweight motorcycle and they would not appreciate the 195 kilograms of weight where they can actually get away with a 150cc bike, like a commuter segment 150cc motorcycle, which weighs close to 150, 155 max. So for a beginner that might be something, but this bike has a very nice weighed down, balanced feel to it. And that you would definitely enjoy a lot on the highway. Now I used to remember there was a time when you got Enfield motorcycles over 100 kilometers per hour speed, they used to vibrate so much that you would feel that the exhaust would fall off, and it used to feel very unstable on the highway due to crosswinds and all that. I can assure you that that's not the case any longer. Around 90 plus right now, just one hand on the throttle. I don't feel the bike moving around that much. Yeah, on bouncier roads, I could say that the rear suspension is a little softer, so it will wobble around on the rear wheel a little bit, and that's just due to the softer suspension, and there is a very thin rear tire. Now, when I'm looking for a motorcycle with highway stability, 120 rear section tire isn't the thing that I'm ideally looking for, because even 150cc motorcycles these days have 150 millimeters rear section tires or 140 section tires. So when you are kind of looking for a motorcycle which is essentially going to tour on the highway, 120 in 2021, I mean, I understand this is a very big wheel, the wheel size is big, and that does add to the stability, but we have imperfect road conditions everywhere in India, and a wider contact patch of tire is I feel that's something that's a minimum requirement. So this bike does have an alloy wheels option. I don't know whether the alloy wheels are also 120 sized or not on the tires which come with the alloy wheel, I mean. But if it is, then I would be more happy about that. I think the mirrors are the only part which is plastic but coated in a metal finish. Everything else that looks like metal on this bike is actually metal, and that does increase the weight. Like on the Meteor, you do get a little bit different, like you get some plastic body panels and mud flaps. Here it's all metal, so people who want that authentic retro full metal motorcycle will appreciate that. I am not really much bothered.
We did take out the Royal Enfield Classic 350 to the highway the next day. Though it was mostly an uneventful ride, we did manage to cruise at 80 to 100 all the time. I really enjoyed the plush, wide, thick seat cushioning, and pillion comfort was excellent as well. Royal Enfield practically has a monopoly in the 350cc retro cruiser bike segment in India. Bajaj's repeated attempts to woo in the customers away with the Dominar has failed. Brand loyalty has allowed Royal Enfield to sell these motorcycles even at a time when fuel prices have crossed 100 rupees per liter and the general consumer is moving away towards smaller commuter bikes. As a reviewer, I didn't like the 120 rear section tires or the lack of LED headlamps in 2021, but I have a feeling that the customer base for this motorcycle doesn't care about these features. Even when I was at the dealership to pick up the bike, so many people were inquiring about it and they seemed like genuinely interested. The challenge ahead of Royal Enfield isn't sales, it's production, battling long wait times to supply a resurgent global market which is moving more and more towards the middleweight segment. The engineers have already designed a solid product which I'm sure the motorcyclists will enjoy. I really hope that Royal Enfield's production line can keep up with the demand and supply the motorcycles to the customers who are waiting to join the Royal Enfield family. See you on the next video where we compare it with its challenger, the Honda Highness. Thanks for watching.